Let me make it clear, I've never really been into seasonal type animes and everything. I've only started consistently watching seasonals very recently, and most of the stuff that I watched in early 2023 just really didn't impress me. And so when I saw that Oshi No Ko was premiering a few months back, I initially didn't care. Even though I had it on my plan to watch list, I was like, I don't really care. I mean, these other seasonals weren't really all that great. Is this thing going to be any better? But eventually, a day after premiering, I decided I would reluctantly give Oshi No Ko a chance. If you don't know what Oshi No Ko is, it is a brand new anime that's just recently come out, animated by Doga Kobo, who I don't know why I've talked about so many other shows on this channel. I don't get it. Oshi No Ko is actually based off of a manga written by Aka Akasaka, who also happened to write Love is War, which I haven't talked about on the channel, but it is a very good show slash manga, minus the later parts of the manga, which I won't spoil in this video, don't worry. I'm only going to be spoiling Oshi No Ko in this video, so if you don't want to get spoiled for this show, then be careful at the very least. And since I haven't actually read the manga, you don't have to worry about any manga spoilers in this video, so that's a plus. So keep watching. And here's the premise of Oshi No Ko on screen, because I can't really read it word for word, as I'm not even using a script for this video. But as we all know about the infamous episode 1, Mother and Children, has a runtime of 82 minutes, and I hate movies, okay? Let's get that clear. I don't like movies. They're too long for me, and even if the movie's really well done, really well scripted, etc., etc., I'm not really going to be too into it because of how long it is. Like, with a show, you can watch one episode and be like, I want to watch this in like 5 months from now. But with a movie, you kind of have to sit through and finish it. It doesn't feel right to just pause halfway through the movie and be like, yeah, I'll finish this later. Like, it's doable, but at the same time, it just feels so wrong. I hope you'll know how I feel about that. And that was a big reason why I was reluctant to watch Oshi No Ko to begin with. Not only because most other seasonals have been mostly disappointing, or just not really cut out for me, but because this thing actively wanted to drive me away with how long it was, but I said, I'm gonna give this a shot. And this is one of the greatest episodes of any anime that I've ever seen. I could see why it needed to be 82 minutes, because this prologue of sorts, in a way, you really needed to kind of get the build-up to where we're gonna start present time with Oshi No Ko. It begins with this idol, Ai Hoshino, who turns up pregnant, and she goes to a hospital out basically in the middle of nowhere to avoid the media or whatnot finding out about this pregnancy, as it would be quite the hit towards her career as an idol if people did find out about this whole thing. She eventually ends up giving birth to 2 children, Aqua and Ruby, whom she commonly ends up getting confused for each other. This is honestly something that I feel like Yui Hirasawa would do if she was a mother.
He's such a pain, isn't he, Ruby?
That's Aqua!
We get to see the first few years of her children's lives as Ai continues her idol career. Also, it's important to note that her 2 children are reincarnated versions of the doctor that was helping Ai. Holy shit, it's Spirit, Sprite! As well as a sick patient that he was involved with, Sarina. But unfortunately, one day, Ai is tragically killed, which was just, it was heartbreaking to see. And this is a big reason why so many people were hyped up about episode 1. It gave off Clanad vibes in a way. Obviously Oshi No Ko could only dream of being Clanad, but this was the first time that I felt like I was watching anything even remotely close to Clanad, like ever, in the 1 year since I first started watching Clanad. Regardless of how the rest of the series goes from here, I'll always appreciate episode 1 of Oshi No Ko for kind of bringing back those Clanad vibes for me, which I may never ever experience in another anime again. The rest of the series doesn't really live up to the hype of the first episode. I'm gonna be probably the 900th to say that, because a lot of people discredit Oshi No Ko because episode 1 is like the top of the food chain, and a big reason why Oshi No Ko was getting scores on MAL and AniList of up to 90, and meanwhile the rest of the series is good at best, average at worst. And even though I am an Oshi No Ko fan, and I do love this series, I do have to admit that. And while I don't think it's right to completely discredit Oshi No Ko, I will say it's definitely a very fair and reasonable criticism to have about the series, because they did set really high expectations with the first episode. But the rest of the series is still fairly good. Since we couldn't get Ai's reboot card, let's go ahead and move on to the rest of the show. We begin with the manga-based TV drama arc, which was a pretty nice beginning to the series. We get to see a little bit of Arimakana, as well as Aqua's intentions to track down his father. I'm not gonna lie, I really didn't like her at first, because she came off as incredibly annoying, but what else do you expect from a little kid? Regardless, it is still pretty ironic, though, that in the following episodes, she turned out to be one of my favorite characters enough, if not one of the few characters I even liked from this series, and the entire basis of my channel name, Kana Sprite, which I also call Kana Sprite because, you know, it's a can of Sprite. I need validation for that incredible pun, please. Just praise me. Once that's all wrapped up and everything, we move on to the reality dating show arc, which introduces us to a couple of new characters like Memcho and Akane. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't care for either of these characters mostly. Mem is cool and all, and Akane also has her qualities, but these characters, they could obviously get some more depth later on in the future. But I will say, the presentation of Akane in episode 6 was absolutely outstanding, and this was the closest to episode 1 that Oshi No Ko hit for me, as it tackles a very serious topic about how the internet does impact people these days. A lot of people say, oh, you're getting cyberbullied, just turn off your computer, but those people clearly have never been cyberbullied or harassed online before, as it's very hard to do that, as you can tell with Akane in this episode. And look, even if you find the power button on your computer, it doesn't really stop the fact that people are still gonna cyberbully you, especially the second that you hop back online. There are some people who may even go as far as to just stalk you down, basically, online. And the comments that she receives online, the harassment and everything, nearly drives her to off herself before Aqua is there conveniently to save her. And it's unfortunate that in a lot of cases, the Akanes out there in the world won't have an Aqua. This episode hit very deep, and it's not a topic I want to dwell on for too long, because I really don't know how to speak out about this. But if this episode teaches us anything, it's to realize that the person you're talking to on the other side of the screen is a human as well. They have feelings just like you. Even if they make a mistake, there's no reason to harass them for it and make their lives miserable. Yeah. I can really appreciate this bit of the series, but after that, I don't really care too much about Akane. I don't hate her or anything, and I'm not saying, oh, she should have just listened to what the black guy with the lightning said.
You should kill yourself now!
As we head towards the end of the first season, we finally see B-Komachi, the idol group that I was a part of prior to her death, finally make its return, featuring Aqua's sister Ruby, Memcho, and Arimakana as the stars. And episode 11, the finale of this season, finally get to see the performance, and this was an amazing episode. Probably number 3 on my list for my favorite episodes, because while the idol stuff was quite minimal the rest of the way, we finally get to see it take its true shine here in this episode. This is a nice way to end off the series, and we get the cast characters being cast into Tokyo Blade, which is going to lead us into season 2, which obviously isn't out yet, but it has been confirmed, which is awesome. Overall, my thoughts on season 1, first and foremost, the music is amazing, the opening is addicting as hell, and the ED is also very solid, although I don't particularly go out of my way to listen to that, unlike Idol. Secondly, the visuals in the show are absolutely beautiful. I swear, like 90% of the budget went into Kana, and the remaining 10% of the budget went into Kana's eyes. I'm not saying they cut some edges outside of Kana, I'm just saying they definitely really liked Kana in this series. They showed so much love that she gets a whole song in one of these episodes, which was great to see. There's just so many great visual screen caps, screenshots throughout this show, and it might be one of the most beautifully and masterfully animated shows that I've seen. 10 out of 10 easily for the animation. And I'm very much excited for season 2, even with some of the lower parts that I'm going to be talking about right now. Maybe there's a little bit too much plot going on. I mean, you have B-Komachi and their attempts to start back up. You've got all these acting gigs and everything. You've got the revenge plot. I wouldn't say that's too much of a problem or anything like that. Another thing that we don't see a lot of in this series is Ruby. Aside from the B-Komachi performance at the end of the show, I kind of forgot that Ruby was even a character that exists, and it's a shame because when she's on screen, she's absolutely amazing and definitely a contender for top 3 in my book. But the fact that she just is so minimal in Season 1 to me is a bit upsetting. And of course, Oshi No Ko does not live up to the expectations that were set with Episode 1. I don't want to discredit Oshi No Ko completely because of this, because it's still a very great show, even if it does not live up to Episode 1. Another thing I have with the series is it's just overall really bizarre. I mean, you have the reincarnation, and then suddenly we just get thrust to this, like, these new lives and everything. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense sometimes, and the whole reincarnation thing hasn't really been explained in depth yet. I don't even know if it's been explained in the manga much. Why, of all people, the Doctor and Saurina were the ones to get reincarnated into Ai's children. Maybe this will be explained later on down the road, I don't know. But it is, I believe, a valid, criticism. Because I feel like this anime tries to make itself serious at times, but at the same time, in some aspects, the whole backstory behind this anime is far from serious. In the end, I gave Oshi No Ko an 8.6 out of 10. It's still a very good show. Like I mentioned before, the animations are beautiful, the story definitely has its holes, and it doesn't live up to the expectations of what was initially presented to us, which is why that is not a perfect score. The soundtrack is amazing. I definitely enjoyed this show very, very much, but I wouldn't consider it perfect because there were some moments here and there where I was a little bit bored. But, to our Clanadians, Clanad remains king. And with that, I wrap up this review on Oshi No Ko. Peace out, everybody. Thank you for watching, and be sure to watch Oshi No Ko. It's a good show. Peace out, guys.